You know that concrete space under your main floor? It's just bursting with possibilities, right? But hold on. Before you start turning it into that dream space, there's one super important step you've got to take. It's what makes sure your project is safe, totally legal, and actually adds value to your home. Yep, we're talking about the building permit. And in this deep dive, we're going to walk you through exactly how to get it done.
So, what are you picturing? A home theater for movie nights? Maybe a quiet office to finally get some work done? Or even your own personal gym? Whatever it is, finishing your basement is, hands down, the best bang for your buck when it comes to adding serious living space and upping your home's value.
Okay, but before you even think about picking up a hammer, there's this one little thing standing between you and that amazing new space. It's the building permit. I know, it sounds like a total hassle, right? But trust me, skipping this step is probably the biggest mistake you could possibly make.
So, what's the deal with all this paperwork anyway? Is it just red tape? Not at all. Think of a building permit as the foundation for your whole project. It's all about making sure everything's safe, legal, and actually protects the future value of your home. It's not about bureaucracy, it's about protecting you and your biggest asset. So here's what a permit really does. First, it makes sure your project meets the Ontario Building Code for health and safety. You know, the important stuff. It also confirms you're following all the local zoning rules. But here's the kicker, the real bottom line. Trying to sell a house with unpermitted work? That can be a total nightmare. It can cause huge problems and even tank the sale.
And it's not a suggestion. It's the law. The City of Peterborough Guide puts it pretty bluntly. It is against the law to begin construction without the authority of a building permit. And the consequences? They're serious. We're talking a stop work order, or even worse, they could make you tear out everything you just built. Ouch.
And if that's not scary enough, how about this number? $50,000. Yep, on top of everything else, you can get hit with a massive fine. Under Ontario's Building Code Act, that's the maximum fine for a first-time offender. No thanks.
All right, have I convinced you yet? Good. So, let's talk about what you actually need to get this thing done. Honestly, getting your paperwork in order right from the start is the secret to making this whole process go smoothly.
Pretty much every municipality in Ontario is going to ask for the same basic stuff. You'll need the main application form, of course, a full set of drawings, and don't worry, we're going to get to that in a sec, something called a Schedule 1, which is for your designer, an authorization to act as agent form, that's if someone else is applying for you, and, well, you'll have to pay the permit fees.
Okay, these forms can look a little official and intimidating, but they're actually pretty simple. The Schedule 1 just verifies that whoever drew up your plans is qualified. And hey, here's a little pro tip for you. As the homeowner, you are totally allowed to design your own plans. The agent authorization form, that just gives your contractor permission to talk to the city for you. Easy. Now, out of all that paperwork, one piece is way more important than all the others: your floor plan. This is your project's blueprint. It's the master plan that tells the building department exactly what you're planning to do down there.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about a sketch on a napkin here. Your floor plan has to be a detailed, to-scale drawing. Just think about it from their perspective. The person reviewing your plan needs to be able to look at this one document and understand every single thing about your project. No questions asked.
So what needs to be on it? Well, you've got to show what's already there versus the new walls you're putting in. You need to label every single room and show its dimensions. Mark down all the window and door sizes, pinpoint where all the plumbing is going and where your furnace and water heater are. Oh, and you have to show ceiling heights, especially under beams and ducts, and don't forget the smoke and CO alarms. Look, every detail you add now is one less question they have to ask later, and that is the secret to getting your permit without any delays.
Okay, so your plans aren't just about where the walls go. They also have to prove you're following the Ontario Building Code. So let's dive into a few of the biggest, most important rules you need to know for a safe and totally legal basement.
In this first one, it's a big one. It is absolutely non-negotiable. If you're adding a bedroom in your basement, you must have a safe way to get out in an emergency. If you don't have a walkout door, that means one thing: you need an egress window.
Now, the code is super specific about these windows, and for a really good reason. The opening has to be big enough for a firefighter in full gear to climb in or for you to climb out. That's why there are minimums for the total open area and for how wide or tall it is. It also has to open easily from the inside without any special tools, and if there's a window well, it needs to have enough space in front for a person to actually get out. Makes sense, right?
Okay, let's talk headroom. This is a huge deal for comfort and safety. The code has minimum ceiling heights, but here's a really smart thing it does. It gives a little break to older homes. So if your house is more than 5 years old, you can actually have slightly lower ceilings. And let me tell you, in a basement with low-hanging ducts, that can be a total project saver.
And it's not just about height, it's also about light. To make sure the space is actually livable, the code requires a certain amount of natural light. It's calculated based on the room's floor area. And just like with the ceiling heights, the rules are a bit more relaxed for older homes, which is great because it just acknowledges how those houses were built.
All right, fire safety. This is obviously critical. Any new living space you create has to meet the absolute latest standards for smoke and CO alarms. And that means they have to be hardwired into your home's electricity. They have to be interconnected, so when one goes off, they all go off. And they need to have a battery backup just in case the power goes out.
So you've submitted everything, your permit is approved and in your hand? You're not done yet. Once you start building, you enter the next phase, inspections. This is where a city inspector comes out to make sure all the work is being done correctly and up to code.
This really lays out the whole journey from start to finish. Step 1, you submit your application. The city usually has about 10 business days to review it for a project like this. Step 2, they issue the permit. Now you can legally start building. Step 3, as you hit key milestones, you call for inspections. Step 4, you pass those inspections, which is awesome. And finally, Step 5, you close your permit and your project is officially 100% complete.
And you absolutely have to call for inspections at these key stages. It makes perfect sense when you think about it. They have to happen in order because each step covers up the last one. The inspector needs to see your framing before it gets buried behind insulation, and they need to see the insulation and vapor barrier before you put up the drywall. Listen up, because this is probably the single most important piece of advice I can give you for the actual construction phase. Do not cover up your work before it's been inspected and approved. An inspector has every right to make you tear it all out. Can you imagine having to rip down brand new drywall? It's expensive, it's so frustrating, and it is 100% avoidable.
But once you pass that final inspection, that's it. You've done it. You've navigated the whole process from start to finish. And your reward is this amazing, beautiful, and most importantly, safe and legal new living space that has just added a ton of value to your home.
And that's the real payoff, isn't it? Enjoying that new space with total peace of mind. Now you have the roadmap. You know how to tackle these projects the right way. So, as you're kicking back in your perfect new basement and you start thinking about that deck you want to build next summer, well, now you know exactly what to do, right?